Okay, so tonight is going to be a real information sharing session between As I Am and Belong To, making sure that with the intersection between our communities, that the people who use As I Am services are aware of all of the amazing services that Belong To are providing and vice versa. So we're each going to do a presentation on the services that our organizations provide, and then we're going to answer a few of your questions that you submitted at registration at the end. And then if you have any other questions going forward, you can reach out to either of the organizations. And this will be recorded and put up on, I believe, both of our YouTube channels, or one of our YouTube channels and the other will link. And I will follow up tomorrow with email with the slides and any resources that are referenced in the presentations. So with that, I'm going to pass over to Niamh Brennan from Belong To, a As I Am alum, to let you know about the services provided by Belong To.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Bridget. I'm just going to share my screen now. Great. So hopefully everyone can see that. So yeah, thank you so much for being here this evening. We're absolutely delighted to partner with As I Am. And as Bridget said, I used to work for As I Am, so it's a lovely little partnership and it's always great to be back. My name is Niamh and my pronouns are she and her, and I am the Development and Training Officer at Belong To. So for this presentation, I'm going to run through, I suppose, a little bit of an overview of who Belong To are. We're going to talk about language and terminology, the importance of pronouns, Belong To support services, how to support a young person coming out, partner organisations that we work with, other LGBTQ plus services that might be relevant, and then our Belong To resources as well. Great, so for Belong To, so we are the National LGBTQ plus Youth Organisation. So we were founded in 2003, and we are based in Dublin, but we do work nationwide. And we actually launched our new strategic plan there last month, so you can have a look at it on our website. So this is our updated vision and mission. So our vision here at Belong To is we see a world where LGBTQ plus young people are safe to shine and can confidently shape their own futures. And our mission, we work with and for LGBTQ plus young people to create a society where we all belong. So I wanted to kind of start off with language and terminology, just because I might be using certain words or phrases throughout the presentation. I just want to make sure that I explain them in advance. And just to kind of look at the acronym, I suppose, that we use here at Belong To. So we use LGBTQ+, and I'll probably be saying it loads throughout the presentation, and I'll probably be saying really fast because I say it all the time. But just to kind of note that you might have seen it, I suppose, in different ways. So you might have seen LGBT, you might see LGBT+, LGBTQIA+, and there's no right or wrong with it, but just the acronym that we particularly use here is LGBTQ+, just that you know that. So I suppose to break that down a little bit, what are we actually talking about? So the LGB, which is sexual orientation, so it's sexual and romantic attraction to other people. So the L is for lesbian, it's a woman who is mainly attracted to other women. The G is for gay, so someone who's mainly attracted to a person of the same gender. And I know a lot of times this could be referred to for men, but actually a lot of people might use the word gay regardless of their gender. Then B is for bisexual, so someone who's attracted to more than one gender. And for example, that could be both men and women. And then to look at the T, so that's transgender, and that's gender identity then. So transgender or trans, you might hear it being said. So people whose gender identity differs from the sex they were given at birth. So when a baby's born, automatically we kind of get boy or girl, we kind of automatically do say that. And so for a trans person, they don't identify with the sex that they were given when they were born. And then for a non-binary person, they are people whose gender identity is not exclusively male or female. And some non-binary people use them, they pronouns. And we'll talk about pronouns a little bit later as well. And then just to look at queer and then the plus as well. So queer is an umbrella term. It's used to describe people who are not heterosexual and or cisgender. So cisgender is kind of the opposite to transgender. So it's somebody who does align with the gender, the sex that they were given at birth. It is important to kind of note, and I know sometimes when we're kind of giving training sessions, people kind of question the word queer because they're kind of, oh, am I allowed to say it? And for some people, it is a derogatory term, and so for some people would not be okay with it. But there is kind of a large section of the community who kind of feel they're reclaiming it as well. So it's just really important to make sure that you check if someone is comfortable with the term before you refer to someone as queer. And then the plus, so this is used to signify all the gender identities and sexual orientations that are not specifically covered by the other 5 initials. And that's just to recognize that there is more, and that the plus is kind of recognizing that. And then just so we can come back there to kind of pronouns. So a pronoun is the way in which you refer to yourself or others. And it is often connected to the way a person experiences their gender. So pronoun examples can include he, him, she, her, and they, them. There are others, but these would be the most commonly used. And if you're not sure of someone's pronouns, it's best to ask rather than just making an assumption. And sometimes it could just be you kind of introducing yourself and kind of go, oh, actually, my pronouns are she, her, or I know myself, like I would have it at the end of my email. And you don't have to, but it's just for some people, it's nice to know, okay, great, I can share my pronouns with someone. So it's just that kind of making sure that somebody feels safe and that they know that they can share their pronouns with you. And I suppose, really, why are pronouns important? So if a young person asks you to refer to them by a different pronoun than that they were assigned at birth, it may not seem that important to you, but actually these words really do matter. So our pronouns define who we are to other people. As parents and caregivers, how you refer to someone shows how you respect them. And if they ask you to use a specific pronoun in the place of their name, it is really important that you listen. Using correct gender pronouns is the easiest way to show that you respect a young person, and this can really shape their mental health. And I know for some people, especially if your young person has kind of said for the first time, actually, would you use a different pronoun? That can be really scary, and it can just be a little bit confusing, or you might go, well, I know nothing about this. That's absolutely okay. You can come to sessions like this. You can, get in touch with Belong To, and As I Am as well. But it is just really important, I suppose, in those moments that you are showing that young person respect. Just because you may not fully understand their identity doesn't mean you can't respect it. And then for us, I think it's really, really important that you know that it is okay to make a mistake. We're not coming in here as Belong To or as an LGBT organization telling you what you can and can't say, in a sense. We can give you the information and the most kind of up-to-date information and research, but we all make mistakes, and that's okay. I think especially when maybe it's in your family, or if you're a professional working in the area and you do make a mistake, the most important thing, first of all, is just to take that moment. Go, oh, okay, I made that mistake. Because sometimes people might make a big deal of it and go, oh, I'm so sorry. And it's coming from a good place, but actually it's nice just to kind of go, right, take a moment, apologize. John, I'm really sorry about that. I actually said the wrong name, or I said a pronoun that, I didn't mean to say. And then it's indicating those positive intentions. Do you know what? I am sorry, and I'm going to make the effort again. Hopefully I won't make that mistake again. And I think it's not necessarily the mistake that you make, it's how you react afterwards. And that's really what a young person's going to remember, because they get it as well. I'm sure they probably made a mistake, but it's really that positive intentions afterwards of how can I try to fix this, and how going forward I can actually make that positive change. So I want to kind of just talk, I suppose, a bit about kind of Belong To's work and the different kind of areas that we work in. So we do direct youth work, and it is based in Dublin. We have information and support. So we actually have loads of information and resources on our website. And we also have our family support service, which I'll chat about in a bit. We have our national network. So we're actually linked in with youth services all across Ireland who specifically have LGBT groups. And then we also do a lot of campaigning and advocacy work. We have lots of research as well that we've done, especially over the last couple of years. And it's all available on our website. So if there is any kind of particular research that you're looking at, we have some fantastic research available there. And then we also have our education and training team who work with schools across the country. So just to let you know, I suppose, a little bit more about our youth service. So as I was saying, we are based in Dublin. So if you are kind of based in Dublin or kind of surrounding areas, it might be useful to your young person to be able to access our groups. So we have our over 18s and under 18s. So the over 18s would be 18 to 23, and then the under 18s is 14 to 17. And within the groups itself, like a lot of time, they're playing video games, or I know Dungeons and Dragons is really big at the minute. And there's lots of different things. I suppose for us, from that kind of youth work perspective, it is very much led by the young people and what they want and what they need in that space. We've actually just piloted a 10 to 13 project as well, which is really great. So we've had a pilot run of kind of a 6-week program for 10 to 13-year-olds, and they were doing an art project. And it was just fantastic to see young people be in a space where there were other young people like themselves. And we've had huge demand for this service, so we do hope to extend that as well. We also do some specialized seasonal programs, and we try to link up with the school holidays. So I know around kind of Easter, Halloween, around the summer as well. I know for the Easter one, we kind of each day during the Easter holidays, it was like different activity. So we try to do them during the day, just because for a lot of the young people, they may not have things to do during the day. So I know they were doing awesome walls one of the days. They did the chocolate factory tour, which we were all very jealous of. They did a theatre show. They did a filmmaking project. So there's loads of different kind of activities that are happening. It's absolutely free to access. So if you do have any young people that you feel actually this would be really relevant for, please do get in touch with your youth workers. New members are always welcome all year round. And then just to kind of go back, I suppose, to the national network that I was talking about. So we support a national network of youth workers and organisations that run LGBTQ plus groups all over Ireland. So for us, we were kind of finding, because we're a national organisation, that young people were getting in touch with us wanting to access a group, but they were based in Donegal or Galway or Cork. And we kind of turning them away in a sense, where actually we've kind of over the years we've developed this network where we work with youth workers all across the country, but we know that their service has a specific LGBT group, so that we can refer young people onto their group. So on our website, if you go on to looking up the youth groups, there's actually an interactive map, so you can see that there on the screen, and it'll show you where the different groups are across Ireland. And if you have a look here on the left-hand side, if you can do a kind of click down box, and you can pick a county. So for example, I picked Dublin here, and it shows all the different youth groups that have an LGBT group in Dublin. So if you kind of go, oh, actually, I would love to be able to, reach out to my local group and see if they have a specific LGBT youth group, have a look on our website, and hopefully you'll find one there. And if there isn't one, get in contact and we can try and link you up somewhere. So for our family support service then, so it's a national support for parents and carers of LGBTQ plus young people, and also for professionals as well. So maybe some people on this call are social workers or teachers or youth workers as well. And it's a service where we have a dedicated member of staff who is there to support families. That staff member can actually meet in person if you're based in Dublin, or online or over the phone. And it's very much to provide a space that's confidential and non-judgmental, to really kind of talk about a family-specific situation. And we provide resources, support, information, videos, and webinars as well. I know for the service, so it's been running about a year and a half now, and there's been great uptake on it, because we find families, maybe for the first time, if their young person has come out, they do feel a little bit lost. They don't really know where to go. So I know when you kind of connect in with our worker, it could just be one call. It could just be, okay, these are the different supports that are available. Here's different resources. Or for some families, it might be a couple of sessions, just to kind of build their confidence up a little bit. But you don't need to know all the answers coming in. And it's okay if you're not fully there. It very much is a non-judgmental space. So if you feel you need that space, please do get in contact with us. We'll send out the contact details, and we can link you in with our support worker. And then just to give you some tips, I suppose, when a young person does come out to you. So it's give yourself time to come to terms with the new situation. And I know from some of the feedback that we have gotten from parents is that for some parents, it can be a grieving situation, where they feel, oh, I didn't realize my child was LGBT, and I now see a different future for them. And that's not necessarily a negative thing. It can be a positive, but you're still might be grieving from what you thought, their life was going to be. And that's quite normal. And it's okay. And it's okay to be in that situation, but it's really important to remember that while you're figuring that out, just to be mindful that a young person also needs your support now more than ever, especially if they have confided in you, especially if they have kind of built up that courage to actually tell you, a different part of themselves. So just take time to consider what you say and how this might impact a young person emotionally. Once again, you don't need to have all the answers straight away, but just kind of having that kind of positive language and kind of asking them, how can I support you best? And be led by the young person, and ask what they need to feel included. And here's just some kind of helpful responses, I suppose, when a young person comes out. And this is a question that comes up a lot, whether it's in trainings or kind of talking to parents of like, what do I say? And for me, I think one of the biggest things is, first of all, just listen. Try not to jump in too quick. Just give yourself that moment, listen, because they could have been building this for a very long time. They could have been, maybe thinking about it, whether it's, around their sexual orientation or their gender identity. And for them to actually tell you is a really, really big deal. So, give them that space and time and just listen. But then use phrases like this of, I love you no matter what, or tell me more, I want to understand. I'm so glad you told me. How can I support you? And for some young people, they might not want anything. They might go, I just wanted to tell you. Or actually, do you know, I'm struggling a little bit. I feel like maybe I would like, some friends who are also LGBT, and you can maybe go and find a group, or, or whether that's in school or a youth service. What do you need? Do you have any friends? Do you also, that you can also talk about this? And how are you feeling? Just check in with them, see how they're doing, and I think that positive response will really make a huge difference to them, especially when they can maybe look back on that moment. And then I just wanted to kind of share with you the different kind of partnerships that we have. So we have a link in with Pieta House. So it's free crisis counselling services. So it is in person in Dublin City Centre, but if you're outside of Dublin, they can still accommodate you online. So it is a psychotherapist who's with Pieta who's specifically trained on LGBTQ plus issues. So any young person ages between 14 to 23 can access the service. If the young person is under 17, they will need parental consent. And there's up to 12 sessions available. So you can just ring Pieta, or you can email on. Once again, we'll send out these slides. But there is actually space available. So, if you do have a young person who could avail of this service, please do let them know about it. Because, it really can be life-changing. I think it's really important to know that service is there. And then we also have a partnership then with Jigsaw, so the mental health charity. So we have updated their e-learning, that we have a kind of partnership with them. So it's free online training, and it's about an hour and a half. So it is specifically designed for professionals kind of working in the area. But even if you're a parent or a caregiver and you kind of feel, actually, I think it might be relevant, or I can, kind of maybe kind of the research piece might be really relevant. So it's kind of, using appropriate language and terminology. Just looking at the current landscape of LGBTQ plus youth's mental health, the impact of social determinants and minority stress on LGBTQ plus young people's mental health, and then also just some practical strategies to help build resilience. So if you kind of feel yourself, actually, this would be quite, helpful to me, it's free, it's online, and it's about an hour and a half to do. And then these are kind of other services that might be relevant. So we've talked about Jigsaw and Pieta already. So LGBT Ireland, they do specifically work with over 18s, but they also have a helpline as well that's open 7 days a week. So if you do kind of feel that you wanted to talk to somebody, or you did have any particular questions, you're very welcome to ring LGBT Ireland. And then also TENI. So TENI is the Transgender Equality Network Ireland. They specifically work supporting the trans community. And I know that they run a lot of peer support groups. They have a lot of information. They do training as well. So if that is relevant, I would definitely get in touch with TENI. And then just some different resources that we do here at Belong To. So we have Coming Out As You Are, Coming Out As Trans, a guide for parents, and then families and transitions. So these are just booklets that we have that could be very relevant. And it could be a case of, if you want to get physical ones, you could always just have them in the house or have them in the school if you're, a teacher. But there is the online ones as well, and there'll be a link in the slides. But just really kind of helpful and just kind of good tips and support around kind of supporting someone coming out. Great, so then our contact details. So as Bridget was saying, this is very much an information session. We're not going to be going particularly deep onto, certain topics, just because we want to kind of give people an in of like, what do Belong To do? What do As I Am do? But if you want more information, or you do want to access any of the services, please do get in touch. So you can get us on info@belongto.org, and they will kind of refer you on to the particular department that's relevant. Our phone number is there, and there's also the website as well. So that is everything from me for now.
Thanks, Neve. I'll move over to the as I am slides. Give me just a second. I'm not usually the one sharing slides, so it might take me just a second. So my name is Bridget Farrell. I've worked at As I Am since 2022. I just had my 3-year anniversary. I first came to As I Am as a service user for the adult program, and now I work on the information line. I manage our webinar program. I also get to manage our Lego club, which is probably one of the more fun parts of the job. So I'm going to do a quick rundown of everything that As I Am do, all of our services, what's coming up on the horizon, and then we'll have a few of your questions. So as someone on the information line, I have to promote the information line first and foremost. We are open Monday to Thursday, 10 to 3. You can call, email. We also have an instant messenger. And one of the wonderful things about the info line is that there's a wide range of backgrounds in the people who answer the phone. We have 2 autistic adults. We have 2 people with a psychology background. We also have SLT, early childhood education, family members of autistic people. So no matter what topic you need to talk about, there will be someone who has information or shared experience. And if we don't have an answer for you, we all are very good researchers and we'll try our best to find an answer for you. So along with webinars and information sharing sessions like this, we do have a very large backlog of those as well. We also do short form explainers, as there is a lot of questions that come up after a diagnosis or when you're trying to find support. So there are things like how to apply for disability allowance or domiciliary carers, how to get support in schools, and then sort of definition videos like what is stimming, what is a sensory need, those kinds of things as well. And that's all available on our YouTube channel. We also make a lot of different resources to help different segments of the community. We have 2 very popular ones on starting the autism journey, which goes through the different pathways to diagnosis and explaining a little bit about the diagnosis. We go a little bit more into that in the understanding your child's diagnosis, which goes into ways you can support at home, what rights they have in education, what supports might be available for them in school. We have the teenage years, which is a wonderful resource that was written in partnership with autistic teenagers who are at this point sitting there leaving certs, which is very scary to think about that they're all grown up now. And a more recent one, which is a practical guide to your young person's educational journey, which really breaks down what their rights are in education from a creche, early childhood setting, all the way up to leaving cert. We also do smaller ones. We did one on, we've done ones for trick-or-treating, the St. Patrick's Day parade. We did one for going to the Taylor Swift concert, which was quite popular. I hope all of the autistic people who got to go really enjoyed it. We offer free legal consultations in partnership with Coyote Lions. That's very often through the info line. This can be anywhere that needs a little bit more essentially legal background, then we're able to offer. Um, this can, two really common ones are dealing with the AON wait lists, the assessment of need, and dealing with DCA and DA appeals and rejections. But we also get discrimination cases that are a little above what we can handle, and they get consultations with Gareth Noble at KOD Lions to hopefully move their cases on a little bit. We also offer As I Am ID cards, which can be helpful in situations where you might have to explain the diagnosis to access disability services in some way. We often hear about this in situations like the airport, or we hear a lot about people using them at Disneyland Paris. That tends to be a very popular place, but it can also be just getting a little bit of extra time and support here at home. Um, we're also starting to get a much more solid idea of benefits and discounts that might be offered based on it. We recently had a deal with Irish Ferries to get discounts for ID card holders and their families. So it costs €25. They last 3 years for a child and 5 years for an adult. That's mainly just to make sure that the picture still looks like you. And it comes with a very snazzy lanyard. So we have our own child and family program. This has our Educate and Empower program, which is for the parents of kids who were recently diagnosed, though we're very willing to make exceptions for that if you are just starting to come to a place where you're learning more about the diagnosis, or any other reason that you might not have immediately joined. Um, we just recently had our first in-person Empower and Educate over the course of a day at the Ashling Hotel here in Dublin. Um, we have speakers on autistic lived identity, uh, communication, speech and language, managing the sensory environment. We usually get a speaker from KOD Lions to talk about the legal rights of the child, and we have Amy Kidd, who runs the Child and Family Program, talking about advocating for your child in school. But the main part of the Child and Family Program is the social groups and the events and the outings for the kids. We're at the moment in the depths of planning for the summer break. There are a lot of events coming up. From Lego Club perspective, we're going to a Lego convention for a day, which is going to be very interesting. I know there are a lot of park and movie outings during the summer, and this will be our third year of hosting Camp As I Am, which is a week-long summer camp for kids who might not have their needs met at a more mainstream summer camp. But the real purpose of this is to make sure that these kids and their families connect with people in similar circumstances. It's wonderful to watch kids get the chance to play with someone who plays like them and understand each other on a level that they don't usually get understanding in school, in uh, other activities that they might attend. We do move that onto our adult support program. There's still a lot of those support groups. We have general men's and women's support groups. but also bringing in those hobby groups to get connection where it might be difficult to find in adult life to make friends, especially other autistic friends. But we also expand out into meeting people where they are, helping with employment programs. We offer one-on-one career clinics, which helps with job searches, um, CV and application letter writing, interview skills, and also in accessing support in the workplace once you're there. This is actually where Neve worked in her former life. Um, and we work directly with a lot of companies to advertise job opportunities specifically for autistic people. We, like Belong To, offer a lot of trainings. Our training team go all over the country working with schools, universities, businesses, and communities through our Autism Friendly Towns program to make sure that these settings understand how to best support autistic people and what the autistic people in their schools and communities and their autistic employees, depending on the situation, need from management and higher ups to make it as successful as possible. We're also very lucky to have the policy team that we do. Every year we put out our Same Chance report, which is based on a large survey of autistic adults and the parents of autistic children on what barriers are being faced, what problems are being had, and what we can do to uh, face those difficulties. We put out a pre-budget submission every year to the government, and we also uh, work on advocating for things like the National Autism Strategy, which went through last year and is working on its different proposals currently, and the rejection of the Green Paper last year, which would have fundamentally changed how disability and domiciliary cares allowance works. We also work on funding research to a lot of unexplored topics that affect the autistic community, since a lot of research tends to be on cause and even prevention when it doesn't actually do a lot of investigation into the lived experience of autistic people. So we are currently doing two research pieces on uh, autistic experience of suicidality and how schools' codes of behavior affect autistic students. And there's always a new research piece going on, and they're always very interesting to read afterwards to get that deep dive into a topic that hasn't necessarily been explored as much as it should be. So Neve and I were joking before we started that she's been gone what in my head only feels like it can't have been a year. And she barely recognizes most of As I Am because we've grown so quickly. There's always a new department being added on, a new project being started. Our biggest expansion has been our one-stop shops. These will be direct in-person services serving two CHOs, which are how the HSE is divided, how the HSE divides up the country. One being, and I can never remember the CHO numbers, but one serves South Dublin, Kildare, and Wicklow, which will be uh, opening in the fall, I believe. And the One Stop Shop West, which serves Galway, Mayo, Roscommon, which has had its soft opening and is taking on cases currently. They'll seek to provide more of those services that As I Am broadly provides at a more targeted local level, since obviously not everyone can come out to our office in Black Rock. We're also working on our Prepare Me As I Am app, which collects and creates social stories to specific situations and environments of the Irish autistic community. I myself have worked on the Navigating Dublin bus and Irish Rail. There's also ones on things like attending a GP appointment or even ordering a sandwich at the deli, which I thought was particularly interesting. As a non-Irish person by birth, I still don't really understand how it works. So with that, I will pass back to Neve to start on our questions.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Bridget. Yeah, it's always from a perspective of someone who has kind of left As I Am, it's just so great to see it grow so much. And it shows the incredible work that's happening. And I think there's going to be so many people hopefully can access both services, which would be really great. Great. Yeah, thank you so much to everyone who submitted questions. There was a good few questions that had come in. Some of them were quite similar. I suppose it kind of just shows the different kind of topics that are coming up. We kind of made the decision not to go through every question just because some of them might have been a bit too kind of specific. That, like, obviously, if you want to contact us, either or organization or both, of course, we can absolutely kind of go through and we can work with you individually as well. But one of the questions that had come in was to how to manage normalization of hate speech at school. I think even just like that question coming in, it's just like it's tough to even read that, but at the same time, I'm actually not that surprised. So I was going to say As I Am, my goodness. I'm back in Belong To. We do our school climate survey every year, and that's really kind of around kind of attitudes towards LGBTQ plus students. And in a way, you know, it's the kind of LGBTQ plus students kind of experience in schools and, you know, how they're kind of navigating it. And the latest statistic is that 76% of LGBTQ plus young people feel unsafe at school. So actually that question really isn't that shocking, because when we see that it's 76%. So I suppose, you know, kind of looking at that and how to kind of answer that, we could probably do an entire webinar on it, to be honest with you. And I think we're probably seeing that increase in hate speech. But some of the tips that I suppose we can kind of give here is, first of all, kind of, you know, talk to teachers in your heads about your concerns, because I know we would do a lot of work with teachers around our school program, and sometimes they don't know what's happening. I'm sure in some cases they do, but also sometimes they don't, because a lot of things happen online. Some things can happen maybe outside of school, or kind of more maybe not overtly. So really, really important that if there is specific hate speech happening, that actually it's really important that teachers are aware of this and in your heads as well. And really do refer back to, you know, the ethos of the school, and look at the anti-bullying policy as well, you know, especially if it is specifically saying around, you know, LGBT phobic language, around kind of homophobia or transphobia. And just two kind of real practical things that we can offer here in Belong To is we do our Stand Up Awareness Week. So this is an anti-bullying week that happens every year in November. And it's really about that kind of positive representation of LGBT particular issues and just kind of stories, and just really supporting LGBT students. So it's not necessarily around Pride, but obviously a lot of schools are off in June as well for Pride. But for us, it's really important to kind of have that kind of solidarity and awareness, and trying to bring allies on board as well. So for Stand Up Awareness Week, some schools will do talks and programs, and they might do, you know, looking at kind of history lessons around LGBT people throughout history, or something as simple as a cake sale or a rainbow jumper day. And it's just that positive representation. So if you are maybe a teacher who's watching this, or even a parent, you can actually approach the school to kind of go, actually, do we participate in Stand Up Awareness Week? If not, can we? And that's just contact and Belong To, you know, and we can send out resources, send out posters and materials just for you to kind of get on board with that. And it can be something really small, or it can be a whole week long. It's whatever you kind of have the capacity for. So that's something that you can definitely kind of, I suppose, get on board with for kind of the first little step. And then Belong To also has a quality mark. And this is an 18-month program, and it works with an entire school body to promote the well-being and inclusion of LGBTQ plus students around schools and youth reaches across the country. So it's a big project. It is an award that schools get. And I know I was at the ceremony there back in February this year. I think it was like 20 different schools from across the country got this award. And it was wonderful to see the amount of work that had gone into it. So maybe a school is not at that stage yet, or they might be as well. So please do check out our website to kind of go, okay, actually, would a school like to undertake this? Of like, how can we make this school, an inclusive space for LGBTQ plus students? I don't, Bridget, would you like to come in on this question?
Yeah, it's definitely something that we see from our angle as well, of the increase in ableist language, especially in the current climate, how autistic people are considered. Um, and some of that I feel like is a barrier of understanding. Like there was a real lack of understanding of autistic people, and now it's something that's culturally aware of autistic people, but not quite understanding of them. So it's something that's still a little bit foreign and scary, and something that might be confusing to kids. And as all of us have been teenagers, it's the scary, confusing things that you don't quite understand that are the ones that tend to get you most riled. Um, so like Belong To, we do offer Autism Friendly Schools program, which we can do one-off talks with schools, but we also have a more in-depth award program that goes through several months of training and changes to make sure that the school is as accepting as possible. We're just out of April, which is our Pride Month, where we see a lot of similar demonstrations in schools, uh, um, casual days, bake sales, uh, that kind of thing. But I think it's the spreading of real in-depth understanding of autistic people as individuals, of deserving of respect, whether they're autistic or queer or both, as the case may be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is. It's, and I think for some, spaces, it might feel really, really big, and it's okay to kind of
Mm,
start small, but it is also reaching out for both organizations and kind of going, this is what's happening, whether it's in a
yeah.
school environment or, and seeing where we can kind of, I suppose, support in that sense. Great. We might move on to the second question there. So another question that had come in is how to balance pride with safety in the current climate, especially around trans kids. And once again, reading these questions, sometimes you're like, oh, it's somebody wants to be proud of who they are and their identity, but then also you have to take safety into account. And unfortunately, that is the world that we're living in. So, thank you for the person who submitted this question. And if you are maybe a parent or a caregiver, or you might be a professional in the area, unfortunately, there are certain things that are just not in your control. I would love to say that we can make every space safe, but realistically, we can't. But I think safety absolutely needs to be key. I think especially when you're working with a young person, or you have a young person, I think having a really open, honest conversation with that young person about where they feel safe being themselves, where they kind of feel like they can really be themselves without judgment, and they can bring their kind of whole self. I think that can really apply to, an autistic person and an LGBT person and somebody who obviously might be both. But it's just really kind of having those conversations, I think, is really important so that you're kind of really understanding maybe why they don't feel safe. And I suppose the things that we can control, if you are a parent or caregiver, hopefully you can make your home safe. you know. So maybe if school is not the best place, or maybe, you know, somewhere else that that young person is, but hopefully you can make home as safe as possible, that that young person can really express themselves and can feel pride in who they are. And sometimes it's really small things. It's like having conversations, you know, really positive and affirming conversations around their LGBT identity. You know, that it's not something we don't talk about. It's something we do talk about in a really positive way and in a nice way, because it's nice to be able to have those conversations that maybe, you know, their straight peers are having. But also, you know, real practical things like watching or reading LGBT inclusive films or TV shows or books, having, you know, books around the house, having shows on that you can sit down together and watch. You know, there's, you know, kind of age appropriate, lots of different types of shows nowadays. And I think it's great to be able to, you know, kind of go, right, we're all going to sit again together and watch this. Isn't that great that there is a character who happens to be LGBT? So I think kind of really making sure, how can you make your home the safest place it can be, that your young person can feel like they can really be themselves. And then maybe just kind of reaching out to your local youth group as well. So kind of going back to our national network there, of like, if you are going to be based around the country, or if you're based in Dublin, if your young person is not feeling particularly safe in school, to kind of go, okay, well, is there a local group somewhere that has an LGBT specific group, so that they might actually feel more safe there, that they might feel like they can be themselves. So I think it's trying to find where you can control, and making sure that, you know, your young person is feeling safe and feel like they can really be themselves. And Bridget, for yourself.
It is a really upsetting question to hear, as well as working at As I Am. I'm the sister to a trans sibling who I'm incredibly proud of, and I feel like making sure that, as my colleague Amanda says, home is the haven, making sure that they have a place where they can feel safe to be who they are, and no matter how difficult school is or the world outside is, that home is safe and welcoming. But also, and it might be more for the older teens and adults, but following their lead of where they want to go and what they want to do and what they feel comfortable with. I feel like sometimes with the news as it is, I'd wrap Glenn in bubble wrap and keep them at home, but they're um, incredibly proud of their community and want to do as much as they can for it. And making sure that your young person feels your support, um, whatever they choose to do. And making sure that they have those contacts, of that they have people that they can really connect with. I just got an alert that the transcription thinks that I might have switched to a language other than English.
Oh.
I don't know if that's an accent dig or not. But making sure that they have those connections, from friends and youth groups and um, safe adults. I think there's nothing that can really replace that.
I think definitely, I think community is huge. And I think
Mm.
that, you know, I think from As I Am, and I think Belong To as well, I think what we're really, you know, trying to do is that really kind of build that community, that it is really safe, and that it's something that, you know, somebody can access, that hopefully, regardless of where you are in the country, they're free to access. You know, I think that solidarity and community is vitally important. And even if somebody can only do it sometimes, you know, that it's maybe not always possible. And I think that it's, yeah, I know myself when I kind of go into maybe the youth spaces sometimes, I always come out buzzing, because I'm just like, oh wow, this
Yeah.
is stunning. Do you know what I mean? It's really great seeing young people just being themselves and being able to be free and not being able to hide. And it's, I think it's vitally important. It really is. And I think that there's things happening out there, but sometimes it's maybe you're not knowing about it, you know, and kind of
Yeah.
actively kind of reaching out to organizations like ourselves and seeing what's out there.
Okay. So I think we're gonna wrap a little bit early. I will send on all of the information we talked about tomorrow. And if you have any other questions, you can email me or you can reach either belong to or as I am. Uh, our info line number is 818-234-234 if you would like to call us. Or you could email us at support@asiam.ie.
Right, and we can send all the belong to details off with the because I definitely don't know the number off by heart.
Oh, we're trained on the info line.
No, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I really appreciate it, and please do reach out if you need anything. We are absolutely there to support.
Hope you enjoy the last little bit of our beautiful night tonight. Okay. Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.